Hey, hello guys, we are back for part 2 of how to renovate a historic home.
Restore, which is the word that I prefer.
Yes. Alright, so we're going to recap. Where did we end off anyway?
5 was the last one we did.
5 was the last one we did. Okay. There are 12 steps plus a bonus step since there aren't 13.
No.
Alright, so the steps 1 through 5 again are design and planning, roof foundation, water elements, demolition, structural carpentry, and HVAC ductwork.
Yes. So now we begin.
Electrical, right?
Yes.
Electrical and plumbing.
Whoops. Should let you finish all 5 before I start with 6.
Who starts with 6? You or me?
Me.
Okay.
So number 6 is insulation. Now, insulation in historic homes has a little bit of a different meaning than it's going to in a new home, and it's going to have different functions, different purposes, and different cautions you have to be aware of. First of all, depending upon the area of the country in which you live, insulation is going to serve a lot of different purposes. We don't have the need in the South for the same level of insulation that you have in the North. Thank you, Father in heaven. We hate the cold.
We don't do well in cold.
But something I want you guys to really be aware of, you're going to get a lot of contractors do new builds, and most of the contractors who are going to be working on your restoration are new build guys. So what they're going to want to do is take the road of least resistance. So when they come into your house and they're going to start with electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and we're going to get into insulation, they're going to tell you this. Well, y'all got to take out all that lath and plaster.
Yeah. Well, you want me to light her up? Yeah, that beadboard was no good. Yeah, we had to throw it all away when it wasn't bad at all. Yeah, so let's pull that out of the dumpster now, okay?
Yeah. So here's the deal. Lath and plaster are some of the best insulation that you can have in a home. Old homes are built with thicker walls than we have in modern construction. Modern construction framing is a 2x4 wall, right? You frame up your 2x4, you put a piece of drywall on one side, drywall on the other side. That's the entire width of your wall. In most historic homes, your wall widths are actually considerably deeper. And they were done that way on purpose. They were done that way to insulate the wall, because you're going to have your lath, your plaster, your sheathing, then either a blank space, or some walls are even brick, and then sheathing, lath, and plaster. What that does is it creates a natural insulation in there. The worst thing you can do is rip all of that out to create some kind of weird airflow in there, and then try to go back in with modern methods and re-insulate. Now, if you live in a really cold climate and you want to blow some cellulose in there, you know, cut you some tiny little holes in there and let them blow some cellulose in.
Do a little repair.
Do a little repair, yeah. That's okay, but don't let your contractor talk you into losing the great insulation that's been keeping your house heated and cooled for 200 years. You think about it, when these homes were built, their heating was a fireplace. Their cooling was opening the doors and windows. So they had to have really energy efficient building methods to keep whatever temperature they wanted it inside to stay that way. Something else about plaster that I think a lot of people don't know, especially if you have lime plaster. There are different types of plaster, different formulations, but lime plaster is actually made from basically reconstituted limestone. So they take the limestone, they heat it up to this incredible temperature, they add some things to it to get it into its kind of liquidized form, then they apply it and it reacts on the walls to the carbon dioxide in the air, and it reconstitutes basically back into stone. We know how, like, if you lay on a cold marble slab, like some ice cream, it's cold. That's what the limestone is going to do. So it's going to naturally kind of cool your space in the hot summer months. So don't let them make you take your lath and plaster out. There's my first lecture.
Right. And it kind of goes back to point number 1 too, when we're talking about finding a contractor.
Yeah.
Look for somebody with an open mind. You know, tell them, look, we love the historical properties of this house, and we want to retain those. Yeah. And we need you to work with us to do that. And
otherwise,
start that up front. Then
you can come home and all the original beadboard out of your original kitchen.
Yeah, I told you I'd light her up by saying that.
Been torn out and thrown in the garbage can.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, so then you actually go on to insulation, which oops, I just dropped my phone. Sorry. Which I do want to warn you against over-insulating an old house too. A lot of people get their insulation guy in there and they just go crazy with insulation. They stuff it full in the attic, they put it in the walls, they wrap it underneath the foundation. Old homes are built to, well, all homes really, but especially old homes need to be able to breathe. There has to be some kind of air passing through the space. If you over insulate, you can end up with a lot of mold problems. You get really poor inside air quality. So just be really, really cautious not to over insulate your space. I know it's very tempting when you live in a climate that deals with a lot of cold temperatures, you want to super over insulate, but be aware of, especially if you're on a crawl space, a pier and beam, you want to make sure that the air can flow freely over those piers and beams so you don't end up with rot.
Standing water.
Well, I mean, obviously insulation isn't going to cause you to have standing water, but it can cause you to have rot.
Okay, I forgot what we were talking about.
So anyway, those are our feelings about insulation.
Yeah,
Step number 6.
lots of feelings about
I
insulation.
have strong feelings about insulation, and we got a lot of questions. I've actually gotten 2 questions today about live and plaster and about insulation.
Well, kind of brings us to our next point. Number 7 is drywall or plaster restoration. Whatever you're going to do. So, you know, especially in Louise, oh, shut up. She says I say so all the time. Never do that.
Just crutch word, listen for it. You can make it a drinking game. It's a drinking game.
Oh, man.
Ready? Go.
So, I'm going to get all drunk, right? Therefore, I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Drywall.
Drywall, yes. So, okay.
And now
everything structurally is done. You can go ahead and put your drywall in, and that's the end. I'm going to quit talking.
Well, also
Can't do it without that word.
Insulation goes really quickly. Insulation is a super fast step, so you want to have your drywall guys on hand. When you schedule your insulation guys, go ahead and schedule your drywall guys because insulation takes like 10 minutes to put in.
Well, and another thing too, I should have told them the trapping we've gotten into before. Sometimes you get into guys and like, yeah, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, and that's great, and they can't.
Kind of the jack of all trade trap.
Yeah,
which isn't a bad thing.
Not always bad, and a lot of times you can save money. But if the guy says, yeah, I can do drywall, and he can, he's not going to be nearly.
He's a painter, he's a woodworker. Let's say you get your trim carpenter guy in, right? Because we've done trim carpentry already, and you're talking to your trim carpenter, and he's like, oh yeah, and I can do drywall. But that's not his
and
first
then you go,
skill.
oh great, yeah, somebody to do drywall. No, bring drywall guys in because they'll be done in 2 days.
Even if it costs you a little bit of extra money.
Yeah, they'll get done so fast.
Let the guys who are
really helpful.
The pros of the job do
if their motto is, how hard could it be? Then don't let them do it.
Only let them do the job for which they're truly qualified. Again, that's not to say they can't do a lot of the work.
Sure.
It's just going to take them a lot longer than it would for someone who's going to do it every single day.
Exactly.
Yes. So the next thing we're going to go to.
I'm going to do it every time you say it.
Oh, no. Windows. Now, this is another question that I got yesterday after our first video. Are you going to be replacing Louise's windows? Are you going to be replacing the windows in any of your restorations? We never replace windows.
Old windows.
Old windows. Now, that's another story entirely. If the old windows are extant, they're going to stay in our houses. Old windows, you cannot get better built windows than historic windows. They also contribute so heavily to the historical significance of your property. So if you buy a historic home and you want to get that home on the register, it almost has to have its historically accurate windows in it to qualify for the National Register of Historic Places. If you've got vinyl windows in, your application's out the window.
I see what you did.
But beyond that, I hear a lot of people like, oh, they're not energy efficient, they're not this, they're not that. Again, they've been there for 100 years. So obviously they're doing their job. If they need some repair work, if they need some reglazing, if they need some new glass, obviously we're going to get those repaired. There are also a couple options that you can go with to help you maintain the look of the original window, maintain the original window, but help with your energy efficiency. There's actually something that you can make that's an interior storm. It's basically just a good piece of plexiglass and a frame that you make to fit in, and once you paint it and fit it inside, you can't even tell that they're there. Those are a good option if you want to winter-proof your windows, but you want to take those off in the summer. And then, of course, just storm windows can go right over the top. I know a lot of people are going to say that's a dirty word, but you can get a clear pane storm window that you can open and close, and they're going to give you the sound and weather insulation that new windows with, they're going to be a lot less expensive and they're going to let you maintain the look of your historic structure. There's nothing worse than having, like, say, a Greek revival with gorgeous 9/9 windows, and somebody does you the great favor of remodeling it and putting brand new vinyl windows in there that the buttons are wrong or they're just plastic strips. Anyway, it's a nightmare. So for us, restoring the original windows is always the way to go.
Right. Point number 9, fine carpentry. So now's when we're going to come in. We're going to put in our baseboards and our trim and our cabinetry and our
door trim and fine carpentry.
Yeah, everything's structurally there. So now we're going to do all the pretty things. We've got your drywall in, so now you can put your baseboards and your crown up against that. And, you know, hire somebody that is, you need somebody that knows what they're doing and somebody that is a craftsman, because you can get just plain little 1x6s and put them on your baseboard, or you can, you know, have somebody put a little edge on these things and make it look a lot better. And, you know, price is going to go up and down.
And this is all part of your planning too. Again, this goes back to the step number 1, planning. Know what kind of trims are appropriate for your period of your home. What kind of cabinetry is appropriate for the period of your home. We do a lot in our kitchens. We don't do modern kitchens in our historic structures. We do a lot of freestanding furniture type cabinets. We go to architectural salvage places, furniture places, and bring in freestanding cabinetry, and then, you know, work that in with a little bit of modern cabinetry so that all of our kitchens have a truly period look. Listen, guys, they function just as well. People look at some of them when we're putting them in, they're like, what is this? What are you thinking? But they function
sometimes
fabulously.
You might have to have the drawer reworked a little bit. But also I was going to say, you know, this is a restoration video. A lot of times you're going to have good baseboards and good crown. And so maybe the few different walls that you've put in, you're going to have to try and match. And again, that's where a craftsman is going to be able to do that. And sometimes you may have to have something milled.
Yeah. But it's not that expensive. Like we talked about in the flooring part of the first video, it's not that expensive to have something milled. Worst case scenario, I have a friend right now who's doing a Greek revival house and he's having to have some knives cut where they actually will create the right profile for him. But that's because he's got a lot of wainscoting and doors that he has to have recreated. Most of the time with a baseboard, some kind of standard bevel edge is going to get you what you need, as long as you can find the boards that are tall enough and thick enough. And something I want to talk about here too a little bit are stain colors. So a lot of people lose their minds when they're redoing historic homes and, you know, all of the wood doors and trim they're maintaining. And so they're having to piece in some pieces and they're so worried that this run of baseboard doesn't exactly match all the rest of the baseboard in the house. And that's easy to get fixated on when you're looking at one run of baseboard in a big empty room. But remember, when you're finished with your room and it's full of furniture and there's rugs on the floor and there's people in it, nobody's ever going to notice that the stain color is half a shade lighter, darker, whatever in these on these little bits of tread. Don't let that freak you out.
No, and I tend to appreciate the fact that they've actually, you know.
Well, wood's aged differently anyway. Sure. So if you actually lined up all the doors in your house, if you're keeping all of your wooden doors and they're all stained and you lined them all up, they're all going to be different colors anyway. Right. You just can't tell because they're all over the house.
Right. Get a little different light in that room.
Well, they oxidize differently. You know, just different.
Okay.
Number 10 is me?
Yes.
Okay, so number 10, interior painting, wallpapering, and finishing surfaces. So I just did it. I just heard myself do it. Oh my gosh. I don't do it in the middle of a sentence, maybe like you do. I don't know. I don't use it as
exactly what you just did.
Maybe it's because I made fun of him before we did this video. It's all my fault.
You know, it's an English word. It's a good word. I love it.
Well, it's because we hate the way that all the kids use it now.
We don't even go into
No, we're going to talk about it because you know how everybody uses, you know, it used to be light. It's like, oh my God, a lake. Well, now.
It's not even the kids. You listen to a doctor come on.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's true. I shouldn't say the kids. It's
everybody.
It's everybody's new speech crutch. You start a sentence with, you know, how are you doing? So I was blah, 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 you know,
right.
Drives us crazy. And we hear it, we laugh. Anyway, look, it's part of the...
No, it's my pet peeve too. Hey, I'm with you.
Part of the uniqueness that makes us is the rambling in the video. So anyway, painting, wallpaper, finishing your surfaces. So the debate is always out.
Hey, we're never going to get through this.
The debate is out on whether you should sand your floors before you paint your walls or paint your walls before you sand your floors. We're proponents of paint the walls, then sand the floors. It just feels easier to us because no matter how fantastic a painter you are, and we're big paint your own walls people because we got the painting interior quotes that you get are outrageous, and you can buy your own supplies and paint and do a great job.
And I'm really good at it, so.
He lies. He lies like a rug. I'm really good at it. And it can be done very, very, very inexpensively when you do it yourself instead of for how much was our quote for our last restoration interior paint work?
$27,000?
Indeed it was. Yes. So anyway, so we do our own painting, which means if I'm just let loose with paint and a roller, I'm gonna get it all over the floor, no matter how hard I try to cover it up, no matter how much I try to work on it. So we're big proponents of paint your walls, paper your walls, get your walls ready, then do your floors. If you're resanding your floors, you're gonna have dust. That's all there is to it. You're gonna have dust for months to come. You're gonna open your kitchen drawers and be like, where did the sawdust come from? It's because you sanded your floor 6 months ago. It's just in the air. There's nothing you can do about it. I'm sorry, no matter how many exhaust bags you use, it's gonna happen. But that's what you're gonna do next. You're gonna paint, wallpaper, sand your floors.
So you're all over my point number 11.
Now you talk about your floors. You have
flooring, go. Next.
No, you have all kinds of things to talk about floors.
Do I?
Yes. What if you need to patch your floor?
Okay, yeah.
What kind of flooring do we not want to do?
We don't want to do any of the vinyl floors. We don't want to do any of these manufactured that have an eighth of an inch wood on the top, and they're like a 1/2 inch board, and they've got an eighth of an inch wood, and they say, oh, you can sand that one time. 3/4 inch wood. I mean, that's what's in all of these old homes. And if you have, they're usually 3/4. If you have a room that doesn't have it and you need to try and match it in, you can do that. We've had that milled before, and it's really not expensive at all. It's not that bad. So guys, don't be afraid to go and say, how much would it cost me to mill this type of wood? This is what I've got, and this is what I need. These are the sizes. And find out. But that definitely can be done. It can be what they call it.
Woman, married, sister.
You can sister that wood in and make it seamless through a new room if you need to do that. If you've got rot in some areas and termite in some areas and you need to pull that out, you can always do that. And then, of course, a lot of times we will do some tile in kitchens or bathrooms. Spaces.
I like wood in kitchens even. I mean, how much water are you really flinging around on your kitchen floor? You know, right? It's not, people are like, wood in the kitchen, but we have dishwashers these days. Very few of us are actually washing dishes in the sink. And even if you are, you're not 4 years old. You're not dumping cups of water on the floor and leaving it there all night long. But in bathrooms, we do like tile.
Right.
I mean, our bathrooms have wood on them, but that's a different story for another day.
Yeah, and flooring is another thing that you could tackle yourself. Tile is not that difficult to do. Watch a few YouTube videos and you can do that yourself. The hardwood is not that difficult either.
Get a straight line is the hardest part. And something else I want to point out about the wood, you don't have to go with first quality lumber. So if you go and you price hardwood and you're like, oh my God, it's so expensive. Look for seconds. So this house that we live in now, the termites had eaten the whole house. And we keep saying that, but I can't emphasize it enough. So much so that we had original hardwood floors in here and the workmen kept just falling through them because there was so much termite damage. So I found a place in Georgia that had seconds, and we got 3/4 inch white oak flooring for very little money for the whole house. I think I paid $2,200 for the wood for the whole house. All you've got to really do is buy more than you're going to need, because you will have to cut off some pieces. Yeah, there were some knot holes and some things, but for the price
tongue and groove is not that difficult. Like she said, keeping the straight lines is the hardest part. But putting down a subfloor, putting down flooring, it's not that difficult. You could do it. Staining it is not that difficult.
Easy, we've done it all. And we are not professionals.
So, flooring. Oh, I said it again.
Next.
You didn't catch it, though. Shouldn't say it.
It's okay. They're the ones who have to catch it and drink, not us.
Okay.
Siding and gutters, which is kind of like a random way to say, and everything else on the outside. You want to make sure, before you do your exterior.
Number 12.
Number 12. Siding and gutters, which is going to include your exterior painting, any replacement of any millwork that's missing. We have a ton of millwork to replace in the project we're working on right now. Those are all the things that are kind of going to come at the end of the game. Your everything else on the inside is done. You've moved in, you're living there. Now these are the things that are just kind of going to be the last minute things you want to touch up your paint on the outside, replace any rotted siding, and put some good gutters in so that that beautiful new porch that you put in doesn't rot away next year because all the rain keeps dumping on it.
Right. And then paint all of that, I guess.
And paint it up.
Right.
And you're good to go.
Yeah, which we kind of threw away, but that can be pretty expensive to paint a house. But again, something you can do.
Yes, we're painting our house right now. That's why I had, can you see my white freckles?
I wanted to point out some of the paint she was painting today.
Because I was painting today.
Right. Yeah. So anyway. And then our bonus. Which one did you say? Oh, yes. Thank you. Because I completely forgot. Bonus point, landscaping, which we're really excited about. We love landscaping. She loves her flowers. I love hardscapes personally, walks and rock walls and borders, that kind of thing, fountains. I love those kind of things.
He doesn't like to build them, but he does love them.
Okay.
But you don't.
Well, I don't like to do anything really, but
at least he's honest.
Yeah. But, you know, she usually tells me where to put the hole, and I dig the hole and I put the thing.
Yeah, we make a great team.
Yeah, because I'm stupid and I'm strong, so.
Not at all.
But so landscaping, yeah, go crazy, man. That's where you can definitely do all the work yourself. I mean, you know, if you need to hire some college kids to come over and move the heavy things.
We do like rent a kid. We like that a lot. We didn't make any of our own, so we have to rent other people's pretty regularly. But man, those college boys can dig a hole and move some dirt.
They're young and they're strong. So we do bring those guys over every now and then. But that's number 13.
And
that's the bonus.
That's bonus. 12 and a bonus. But I do want to say, I have done landscaping way too early in the process a couple times. And one thing you don't think about is, if you've got to paint the exterior of your house, they're going to have to get a lift right up there. If you have to do some roofing repair, if you have to do some high up trim repairs. So as hard as it is to wait, and for me, it's so hard. It's so hard. But wait to do your landscaping till the very end. And
we've reached the very end of this.
And we've reached the very end.
That is Restoring Old Homes, part 2.
Sort of.